What's up, guys? Theo here with a very extended episode 5 of Mega Maker. As you saw in the beginning part of this video, this is Dog Walks at Sunset. I wanted to do a kind of like full level creation video. I don't exactly know how fast I'm gonna have to fast forward that to make it even like remotely watchable. But that was about 5 or 6 hours, I'd say, of me creating the level, testing the level. Unfortunately coming across a couple of glitches that I had to find on the way, but I kind of wanted to show this level off. First off, this level is basically around using Rush and a couple of other weapons as fast as you can. The first half of the level focuses around Rush Jet, and the second half of the level focuses more around Rush Coil. You also get Silver Trident, I believe is the name of the weapon, the axe thing that basically does like the swooshy motion, and Mega Buster just to fire and kill enemies and stuff. But both of those are on somewhat restricted weapon energy. You pretty much have as much Buster as you want, even though it's on a little bit restricted, but still. So this part is actually a little bit trickier than it looks, because you have to be in a pretty specific spot to be able to call Rush down and have it still be low enough for you to jump on it. He kind of likes to spawn a little bit high there if you go right over the spikes. This part is possible to get through there without getting hit. It's just pretty tight, but I did do it in practice, so it is possible. And that jump right there specifically is also a little bit more trolly than it looks, because those yellow platforms that move up can despawn Rush. I'll talk more about that jump that I just did right there off to the left in a little bit, because there's kind of a different version of it later in the level. But as you can see, there's a lot of different weapon cycling in this level. I haven't really made a level around weapon cycling before. But as you can see, you've already pretty much used all 4 weapons, like, in their own ways, I guess. That Rush Coil jump is not as tight as it looks. This Rush Jet jump is tighter than it looks. I guess if you're playing this level, you might be surprised to see that Rush Coil part isn't as hard as it looks. You kind of expect it to be a little bit harder because you have to just jump up there, but it's spaced out so you can basically make it perfectly. This jump up here to get the M tank is probably the toughest jump in the level. And I'm gonna be perfectly honest and say I don't even necessarily know if it's possible. If it is, it's like frame perfect or something. But it's there to taunt you, at least, if you want to try to go for it. This jump is not as tight as it looks. A lot of these jumps are actually, like, I don't want to say free, because they do take a little bit of learning to do, but they're consistent. As you can see in the super fast forwarded part of my levels, I playtest my levels kind of obsessively, I guess. Even then, it doesn't necessarily matter, because I playtested Blown in the Wind pretty obsessively, and then Super Nerd showed me tech with the NATO that I didn't know at all. Which ended up making the level kind of interesting, because like it was broken in some parts but not in others. But anyway, so I have to talk kind of fast because I actually like got through a majority of this level on the first go. I wasn't really expecting to. But this part is kind of tricky because you basically have to cycle back and forth between the different rushes to be able to get up here. And obviously there's not enough room to be able to Rush Jet up, so you actually have to cycle over to Rush, Rush Coil, bounce off of it, cycle over to Rush Jet, and fire twice. The reason you have to fire twice is because the first shot of Rush Jet will always make it so you just kind of bring Rush down, so the second one is the one that actually fires. This jump is a little trolly, and probably one of the more trolly jumps of the thing, because Rush Coil and Mega Buster are right next to each other, so if you cycle too far, you'll end up breaking your only platform up there and then end up dying. But overall, the second half of this level I wanted to just have around like fun weapon cycling, being really, really tight and careful with Rush Jets, and actually kind of having to set up a couple of them by like jumping up in the air first, which I thought was interesting and I haven't really seen before. This one is a bit of like, I don't even want to really call it a mini boss, but you actually do have to break through these before you can actually damage this guy. Just because the weapon shots deflect if it's not the right weakness or whatever. So you actually have to kind of break through there to be able to kill that guy. It's not very hard to kill. This jump is 1 block too high unless you use Rush Coil, and you actually have to kind of set it up so Rush Coil basically just goes on the spike. It's a little tight, but it's free to keep bringing it down, so it's more just about finding the positioning and then learning where it is. This part I was actually kind of nervous about, if I'm being honest, because I've never really been this low on weapon energy before, and I was like, oh no, do I have to go upload this level again with more weapon energy to make this possible? But as you can see, if you do this part right in the way you're supposed to, you have just enough weapon energy to get to there, and there's more weapon energy on the other side of this, so I'm not too worried about it. This one is a kind of interesting Rush Coil where you have to bounce off of Rush, go around that platform, and be able to break that one. If you forget to shoot that door before you fall down, I guess. I was trying to find a way to make that required, but there wasn't really a way that I could do that, so I kind of hope that people just mess it up at least once to get that cool jump out of the way. By the way, shoutouts to overflowing energy right there. I was a little... oh wait, no, that wasn't overflowing, that was just me switching. Never mind. You get bounced back, and there's still like Rush bouncing you off the screen from the previous thing. Just kind of an interesting visual glitch, I guess. So the end of this level is kind of an excavation puzzle sort of thing, and then followed by a jump that looks way tighter than it actually is. So this one you have to be kind of careful on your way down, because if you fire too fast, obviously it'll just fall off the edge. And if you fire too fast, this jump actually becomes way harder if you go any farther lower, just because you then have to kind of do a pretty careful rush jet clear, like all the way up. But if you're careful, you can just slide under. And then this jump is a pretty tight looking Rush Coil, but literally all you have to do is hold left. You just jump and hold left, and you like just barely clear it pretty much every time. So finally we have the boss. I kind of wanted to make a unique boss, and I actually wasn't sure what I was going to be doing for the boss for the first like 5 or 6 hours of this video, if you noticed. But eventually I found a way to make a cool boss fight. He's immune to the silver trident or whatever, because I didn't want him to just like go down instantly. So you can kill him with any of the Rush Mega Busters basically, or the Mega Buster itself. But he doesn't actually really take that much damage from him, because I made it so he doesn't actually have weakness. And he just has that like immunity or whatever. And the reason I wanted to do that first of all is because if you want to fight him like that, you can. But as you can see, it's kind of difficult. So what I ended up doing, it actually takes me a couple tries to do it, but I do eventually get it. I added an intentional quick kill to this boss. It was something that I noticed during one of my initial builds of this boss fight. But if you can manage to crush Pharaoh Man on the top of the screen using this platform that I keep digging myself down to, it just instantly kills him, like no matter how much health he's at. I added the spikes up top to make it a little bit more visually obvious that you can do that, I guess. The spikes actually, for once, aren't actually supposed to be a threat to Mega Man, but kind of more like a visual guide to the player. If you want to, you can perfectly play this fight just normally. It's pretty hard because there's a lot of projectiles going around, and I would definitely recommend still trying to take out like the other enemies. You can kill this green guy up there. And by the way, even though this platform glitches out like that through the ground sometimes, it normally still like always works. Even if it glitches and like clips through, you'll still always be on top of it. So even though it's a little glitchy, it still works. And since I'm pretty sure I'm going to die here, I just show off that he's completely immune to it. It just bounces off. So building this boss was actually kind of interesting for me, because I never really know what I'm going to do with a boss until I get into it. And this one specifically, I didn't want to make it like free, but I also didn't want to make it like completely bullshit. And I also kind of wanted to do something that was slightly different than my first boss attempt, because I didn't want to just make like a room every time that the player has to get through into like a restricted boss arena. I wanted this one to actually be like a boss fight that you just like kind of fall straight down into. But one thing that I thought was kind of interesting, actually, that you're not really going to notice in this video, the space off to the right is actually only one tile, basically, of another screen, and then spikes. This is basically designed so Mega Man gets killed if you go over there. Pharaoh Man can still stand and jump to the side of the screen without jumping off the screen, which is something that I noticed he did in one of my playtests. And obviously you don't want your boss jumping off. I was so close to getting him from there, by the way. I was like, ah! But anyway, so you can see he kind of like jumps off screen, but not entirely off screen. Basically, one tile to the right of this is just a spike wall, pretty much. But this makes it so Pharaoh Man can jump off screen, but not entirely. Mega Man can't jump off screen, like, at all, or he's gonna die. But those cannon shots that that you kill on the way down here, also don't end up, just staying in the arena, lagging it out a ton, and then screwing you over, I guess. But there I showed that, the Rush weapons are pretty decent, at least, against him. If you don't want to go for the quick kill thing, which I kind of don't blame you, honestly. It's fun for me to try to show it off because I know it's there. But if you don't want to go for the quick kill, it's perfectly fine just to kill him off with the regular weapons. It's definitely a lot faster to go for this, though, even though it takes me like 4 or 5 attempts. Like, if you're gonna one-shot the boss, then it's probably faster to just kill him off or whatever. But this way's a lot more fun and looks cooler, so... judging by the time, I think this is the one that I get it up for. So basically what you want to do is bring this platform up and time it so he gets caught on this, like, mid-jump. It's a lot easier said than done because this is actually normally, like, right in between one of his jump patterns or whatever. So you basically have to have him do that shallow jump up there. But as you can see, it completely annihilated him. And as long as you don't land on the spikes after, because you basically are alive until the second Mega Man does that animation, you should be good. It's not the easiest quick kill, and honestly I don't really see a whole lot of people going for it, but it is there, and it is intentional. So that was Dog Walks at Sunset. Thank you guys for sticking around. I don't actually know how long this video is going to be, if I'm perfectly honest, but thank you for watching. If you like more Mega Maker content, please drop a like, subscribe, please comment, by the way. I like to respond to all my comments, and have a good day. Bye.